with the folks who submitted the questions in case they're not watching live. So for anybody who's tuning in, you're going to be able to see my answers to your questions in multiple places. And if you can't watch live, you will always get an email with the recording, which is why I record these. So again, welcome everybody on Facebook, welcome on Instagram, welcome to the people who are watching this later as a recording. I'm Jamie Hartman, and I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner and an AIP certified coach. And I'm going to answer a few questions that have been submitted to me. They aren't all about AIP strictly, but they kind of center around that. And my expertise is a nutrition focused health coach. So the first question, oh, and by the way, I should add my disclaimer is that, this is of course not medical advice. I am not a doctor and I am not your doctor. I am not licensed to practice medicine. So if you should be checking with your own practitioner before making any major changes. And even if I was your doctor, I am not your doctor. So that's important to know too. Okay, so the first question that came in that I want to tackle has to do with organ meat. So how do I overcome that hurdle of eating organ meat? So this particular individual wants to know about, is it better to try to hide it in like a meatball, or do I have any favorite recipes for that? Or should I just plug my nose and just swallow it and get over myself? And my answer to that is actually neither. You should find some way to make it delicious because it's very much possible. I personally love a good liver pate. So my favorite recipe by far for the liver pate comes from my dear friend, Mickey Trescott. She has a bacon and beef liver pate. So a lot of people, when they talk about eating liver, the kind of conventional wisdom is that the liver, chicken liver, because it has a milder flavor, is what they would recommend to people to start with. I actually find that milder flavor makes it taste a little bit more minerally, a little bit more liver-y. Yes, it's milder, but it's like I can taste the minerals in it. And I'm okay with that now. I've kind of grown to love it. But when I was first starting out, what really I liked actually, and I still prefer, is a good beef liver turned into a pate. Because it's got a beefy, hearty flavor. So again, Mickey's recipe is by far my favorite. It's beef liver, bacon beef liver with rosemary and thyme. So that's what I recommend my clients start with. I'm actually not a huge fan of the hidden liver, like put it in a meatball or in a stew or something. Some people it works for, and if so, great. But my problem with that has been, for me personally, is that I can still kind of taste it. And then I have this whole big batch of meatballs that I'm supposed to eat, and all of them taste a little bit like liver. And that's not really all that appealing to me. So you can try it, but it's, again, not my favorite way to do it. I'm kind of the mind of like, let's turn it into something delicious. Liver pate is a delicacy. So that's my favorite recipe. The other tip I give people all the time about preparing liver for the first time, if they're squeamish about it, is to separate the preparation from the eating, because a lot of people will say to me, if I could just get somebody else to prepare it, I could be able to eat it if I didn't kind of know what it looked like. And they also are the same people that if I said, well, if we had to prepare this for somebody else to eat, you could do that, right? Even if it feels gross to you. So just separate those two. Prepare it on one day, which is perfect if you're making a liver pate because it's going to taste better cold anyway. Prepare it on one day, put it in the refrigerator, and then eat it when it's completely cold and you've kind of forgotten about that preparation. So that's a little mind trick tip that I have found helps a lot of people get over that. So that was the question about overcoming the organ meat hurdle. I have two other questions, and then I just want to talk a little bit about kind of some general thoughts I have today, but let me get through these questions first. So the next question had to do with somebody wants to know about their IBS, irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, and not feeling like this person's gotten any relief from it. In the question specifically was mentioned that they eat a lot of vegetables, drink a lot of water, because they probably knew right away I was going to go to that, like how's your hydration and are you eating a lot of vegetables, because those are important, and also that they're 99% grain free. And that's kind of all of the information I have. So I don't know if they're doing AIP on top of that. I don't know that there are other elimination, like what is the rest of their intake look like, because being grain free, that 99% grain free, one question I might have is, well, what is the 1%? And then is being grain-free even the right thing for you? So it's not like I'm going to say immediately, make sure you're 100% grain-free, because that might not be the best choice for this person. In fact, what might be better for them is to be adding some grains, specific grains, carefully chosen and properly prepared, back into their diet to help keep things moving. Some people need it. And actually there's a lot of evidence that, the right kind of grains can be really helpful for gut health. I would probably, and again, I don't know this person's particular, I'm not their NTP or their coach, so I don't know all the details. But what we might start with, if this was one of my clients, is some like sprouted organic oats. That might be the first place to start. So some really good organic sprouted oats, and see if adding a little bit of that might help. The other thing I'd be looking at is asking if they've taken any magnesium supplements. A lot of people I work with are already taking a magnesium supplement, don't even remember to mention it to me until I ask. So I would ask that, and if they are not, or whatever, what form or what dose they're taking, it might be an indication that they can increase that. Most of us are deficient in magnesium in our diets, even if we're eating a really good diet, because of the fact that our soils are depleted and we're not getting, all the same minerals that our bodies really would work the best on. So there's usually little harm in adding more magnesium, but there are different forms of magnesium. So I'd want to work with them on that and see, if that might be helpful. So a couple different things to be thinking about with this person. And I can't give a specific answer, but one might be expanding their diet or tightening it up. Because again, when people tell me they're 99% something, I really wonder what that other 1% is, and how much of an impact that could have. But that isn't the only thing I would do. I would look at, well, what are you not eating? Maybe we need to add something back in, magnesium supplements. And then the last thing, because this person's question specifically said IBS, is that I've recently been learning a lot about the benefits of using hypnotherapy for IBS. And there's an app that I'm actually kind of test driving myself before I recommend it to anybody else. And so far, I think it's pretty cool. It seems to be helping me, and I don't even have classic IBS. I have some IBS type symptoms related to kind of the post-Crohn's disease, post-surgery, my Crohn's disease. And I do think it's helpful. So it might be something that this person or anybody who's listening to this who has IBS, either IBS-C or IBS-D, so that's constipation or diarrhea, or that combination, might want to look into. I forget the name of it. I should probably know that before I start talking about it, but there's an app that does this IBS hypnotherapy that you might want to look at. Something I think it's called like Nerva. It's not free. They do have a 7-day trial to start with, so you can kind of test it out a little bit, and then you'd have to pay for it after that. But that's it. Thinking about hypnotherapy for IBS doesn't mean to imply that it's all in your head by any means, but that your brain is in your body and your brain is sending signals to your gut and vice versa. And that sometimes our brain just kind of gets into a pattern that's not helpful for our body. So you can think about stories we hear about people maybe who even have had something like, a limb amputated and they still have phantom pain in it. That's the brain misfiring and needs to be retrained. And it's very real. This is not like you're making it up. But the same kind of pathways or similar pathways can be kind of built into the body that maybe working with the brain can adjust when it comes to IBS. So that's my final tip there on that for this person to check out. Maybe look into that app. But again, really, consider maybe the 99% grain-free diet's just not the right solution for you. And maybe adding some grains back in might be a better solution. But I would encourage anybody dealing with an issue like that to consider having a consultation with somebody like myself who can review your food journal and really give you some fine-tuned suggestions. Because I can only speak sort of broadly from the little information I have, but I would be happy to go in deeper, on that if I could see everything that this person was eating. And then the third and last of the 3 questions that I had submitted to me today have to do with transition options for AIP. The question came in and I was asking see what she specifically said. Let me make sure I look at the question here. She specifically said that, I've been transitioning now into AIP for about almost 3 months now. And is that okay? My answer, of course, is like, of course it's okay. There's no gold stars given to getting to AIP, faster. But I do think that, the longer you drag something out, the harder it might be to actually make it work for you. We think about big decisions and in big changes that you've had to make in other areas of your life. And it's possible that, you're taking it too slow if you are questioning whether you're taking it too slow. I don't think you're hurting yourself physically by making that transition slowly. So specifically, she said that she's been gluten-free and she's been dairy-free, and now she's cutting out she's mostly paleo, and she's not cutting out some nightshades. And I don't think any of that's harmful. To be doing that. Each one of those steps should help her feel better along the way. But I get a sense from the way the question was written that she has a little bit of feeling like AIP is sort of insurmountable, even though she's almost there. And I want to just reach out through the computer screen and give her a little pep talk and say, you can do this. You're almost there. The longer that you are putting off your actual achieving of it, the harder it might be to actually take that next step. But just stepping back and speaking generally, to say somebody who hasn't done anything yet at all, is still just eating the way they've always ate, but has come to me, is hearing me say this because they think maybe AIP or paleo or something along those lines would be helpful for them. My general guidance is to go slow, to take your time, either transition by eliminating one type of food at a time and then another type. So maybe you do eliminate grains first, then next eliminate, dairy, and then next eliminate, whatever order you feel makes sense for you. Another way to transition slowly that I've seen help with, work for a lot of my clients, is that they transition one meal per day, or even one meal per, a couple meals per week, just to get used to cooking and preparing and sourcing, in the other order, sourcing, preparing, cooking, meals that are AIP compliant. So they would eat the way they normally ate, most of the week, but on like 3 dinners or 3 lunches or 3 breakfasts or every breakfast, whatever works for them, they would make those AIP meals. And then gradually just each week make more and more of their meals be AIP. That's a good option for the person who is making major habit changes with their transition. Like maybe they rely upon eating mostly takeout food right now, or prepared, packaged food that's coming out of the freezer, out of a box. And so their big hurdle is not so much eliminating foods, but just completely changing the way they eat. So for somebody like that, that might make sense to just, think about like just testing out some recipes. I've had a couple of clients who I've worked with together, and that's what they've done, and it worked well for them. Another approach is to think about what are you going to add into your diet before you take things out. So I've also done that with some clients where, we looked at what they were eating when we started working together, and it was, a diet that didn't have a ton of nutrient density, and they felt like cutting out anything would leave them with nothing to eat because they were maybe a picky eater. And so our approach instead was to say, let's try to expand the nutrient density focus of what you're eating, and then we'll talk about what you can cut out, because it's going to crowd some things out, when you do that. So I'd set them a goal. One of the goals I can give everybody who's listening to this right now is that at a minimum, you should be aiming to eat 6 or more cups of vegetables and fruits in your day total. I include fruit in there. You can have fruit in there, but here's how you should break that down. So think of it as 6 cups is the big goal, and more is fine. 6 cups is the big goal per day. And of those, 3 of those cups should be green. So those are going to be all vegetables. There's some green fruits, I realize, but ideally those are green vegetables. And then the other 3 cups are brightly colored vegetables and fruits. So when you think about looking at a plate, as you see your plate, it's got your protein on it, whatever that protein source is. And so whether that's, meat or eggs or, fish. And then it also has a cup of greens in some form, greens something, leafy greens, broccoli, zucchini, whatever you like. And then it has a cup of brightly colored vegetables. So that's where you're going to see carrots and beets and sweet potatoes and squashes and red cabbage and radishes, and then a little bit of fruit too, blueberries. And if they're brightly colored, they go in there. You can also eat some white vegetables and fruits, of course. We all can think of a few of those, like cauliflower, everybody's favorite. But I would try to consider those as extra on the plate. So if you're getting that 3 cups of green and 3 cups of brightly colored plant matter, and everything else you ate was just whatever you felt like, trust me, if you make that your goal, you're going to crowd out the other stuff pretty fast. So you're not going to have a lot of room left in your stomach to add in some of the things that might have been holding back your healing. So that's a little challenge for anybody who's hearing that, who's like, still eating, whatever standard diet is normal in the place that they live in. Maybe just try to aim for that every day. And you can break that up. So when you think about what I just said, it's 6 cups total, 3 cups green, 3 cups colors, and you're going to eat 3 times a day. That's just 1 cup of each at each meal. I know people are like, wait, breakfast? I don't eat greens at breakfast, but you could. There's no reason that you can't. So think about it that way. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be daunting. So that's a summary of some of my thoughts about transitioning. Yes, you can transition too slow. I mean, if you've been doing it for months and you still aren't at full AIP, but you are committed to that being your goal and you really believe that's what you need to do, I think it's time to just take the leap. You can do it. You can do it. If you're still in the phase, and this is for everybody else who's hearing this, if you're still in the phase of thinking about it, feel free to plan out a slow transition. It's what I found to be the most beneficial for my clients and for people who I talk to casually, that going cold turkey works for some people, but it's hard to sustain it past that first I'm doing it first few days or even a couple weeks. So feel free to transition slowly and consider all the different ways that you can transition. So those were the 3 questions that were submitted. I hope to the people that submitted them, and I'll also be sending them the recording. So you're getting this recording, you will hear me answer your questions specifically. I hope that helped. If it didn't answer all of your questions, feel free to follow up with me, and I'm happy to elaborate a little bit more. Also, for anybody looking at that, I am about to start taking new clients. I'm officially kind of launching October 1st, going to let everybody know that I'm open for new clients. I'm clearing some space out of my schedule for a bunch of new initial consultations. They take a little bit more time, so I have to kind of rearrange my schedule for that. But if anybody is ready to get started with me or wants to just have a one-on-one conversation to see, you can now schedule a discovery consultation with me even now. You don't have to wait till October 1st for that, but that will be coming. So by the time we talk next, I think, yeah, that'll be October 1st. Next time I do one of these, I will have really kind of opened the doors to my office. So that really is it for the questions. Just I'll finish up by just saying, and I hope everybody's doing well out there. This is kind of a heavy time, it's really a heavy time for a lot of people. My heart is feeling it. I posted some things from my Instagram folks. I'm looking out over my computer because that's where the phone is. For my Instagram folks, that's probably the place where I'm the most sort of presenting the whole picture of me. I use my Instagram feed like a lot of people do, and then I use it to communicate with all of you about, my professional life, but I also use it to connect with people as far as my whole life, so that includes some things that are sort of outside of the bounds of what I would talk about in a professional context. But I think I want to give space to that, and I want to give some weight and some seriousness and some love to the heaviness that I think a lot of people are feeling right now, both in the United States and around the world. We're dealing with a global pandemic. Let's not forget we're like 6-7 months into that in most parts of the world. Here in the US anyway, we're about 6 months in. And it's at that point where, anybody dealing with like a long-term trauma realizes that's where it gets really hard. It does. It's this idea of having a surge capacity, but we've maxed it out, is pretty serious. So be kind to yourself in terms of that. And of course, on top of that, here in the United States, we got some heavy news yesterday when we found out that the officers who were responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor, who I don't know, and probably most people listening to this don't know her personally, but I feel like she's in my heart. We found out that the officers are not going to be held accountable for that, and that's just heartbreaking. You know, I don't know how else to say that. You can have a lot of opinions about how policing should be done in this country or who's right or wrong, but this one just seems like it should rise above that. You know, we should be safe in our own homes, and anybody who isn't, there should be justice for that. So, you know, again, this is outside of I wouldn't normally be talking about this in my office. If we were working one-on-one during your client time, I certainly would not. But I think it's worth mentioning that if you're feeling like this is hard right now, you're not alone. And, you know, what you eat and how you take care of yourself physically is important, but so is how you nourish yourself too. So reach out to the people that make you feel nourished, that help you connect and stay grounded during these difficult times, and keep trying to, you know, lead in the way that you want to lead and the way you want to be led. Ask your leaders to lead you that way too. You know, we're all responsible for our own little piece of the world, and I'm trying to do my part to make my little piece of the world a better place. So I hope this experiment here of using Instagram as well helped. I did see a few people came on live with Instagram. I can't see Facebook when I'm doing it this way, so I don't know if anybody on Facebook was watching it live. I hope so. But with Facebook, I know it'll stay there and you'll be able to see it later. And I'll also be emailing this link to the people that submitted their questions. So again, next time, same time, same place. I'm going to try to do Instagram again, if that works. So if you're an Instagram person, watch for that. If you're a Facebook person, watch for that. If you want to just get the email, watch for that. You can submit your questions on my website, and I will be happy to answer any questions that come in. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.